talk about e-learning days, especially in days like this where it's snowing outside and it's cold and we're stuck. So I have some fun activities and things to show you of what I do with my students and what my team does, and hopefully this inspires you. Thank you for joining in on my e-learning session. And the reason I wanted to present about this topic was because it's something that we started out with last year. My district actually had 5 snow days in almost pretty much in a row. And we were just preparing with this topic. And my team, which consists of myself, the music teacher, and the PE teachers, we're trying to find ideas and what we could do from us for the e-learning. And so what we found out or worked through some steps and things are what I'm going to share with you today. And most importantly, it's to have fun for the kids and something that we could collect data and show work that they did and completed for attendance purposes. So feel free to use any of this in your classroom. I'll have some additional resources of how-tos and just kind of the steps that we used in order to make this so successful. In fact, we are or have begun doing e-learning days already. In fact, we did one right before Thanksgiving break as a practice. My hope is that some of these tips and tricks and our trials and errors and things that we worked through and what worked for me in the art room or not will hopefully work for you. So let's get started. All right, so the first thing about getting started, these are just a couple slides I have in that handout that goes along with this video, just if you want a little bit more information, is to get started is thinking about how do you communicate with your students. So do you use any of those and how do you go forward with that? And then also just coming up with a theme. So for example, if you want everybody to work on a certain skill, this is a great opportunity to do that, as well as make your own videos and insert that. I found that very helpful with my first ones and just grouping them a little bit easier that way. And then this last slide is just about creating a Google form. If you haven't ever gotten a chance to do it, it's really simple. So I've made a couple little tutorials on how to do that. The first one, it's just special for this presentation, was just how I had to create a Google form, and then on my YouTube channel. And then after that, the other one is just an example that I did to help new students and families this year with our first practice e-learning day that we did. And again, it was just in preparation, because last year we talked about doing an e-learning day and just prepping for it, and then we ended up with several in a row, and it was just kind of trial by fire. So this was a way to get families used to it and get all those questions and things out of the way before we went into it. And also just help with the one problem that we had with the Google Forms at the first time was that some students forgot to click submit. So you'll notice in my little tutorial and the Jiffy that I added in there, as well as the constant reminder of please click submit. So that is it. All right, so the first thing and lesson that I learned was with my first E-Day learning, when we did our Google form, I had asked if to get credit to turn in their drawing or whatnot that they created, because I had kindergarten doing one, I had first and second grade doing a different project, and third and fourth grade doing a different skill or project as well. So when I came back in, I came to a lovely pile of all of this artwork to go through and check off and grade, in addition to the Google Forms that I had done. So that was one thing that I had to help modify for myself, just so you don't end up with that. It was nice seeing all of the work that the kids were doing. They really were working hard. Like, for example, here's just one that was on the top of the pile. But it was nice to be able to see what the kids were doing at home. I talked about it could be on any paper, so I had some that were turned in on napkins or paper towels or newspaper and various different other materials, which was fantastic.
The kids absolutely loved what we played, but I found that this was just a little overwhelming on my part because I teach K through 4, and when we send out the work, our links, the teachers say or tell the families that they can choose one enrichment class or one special class. We're trying to say enrichments. And that way they could either choose to do art, music, or PE. So, given that there's about 500 kids or a little bit over at our school, I ended up with on this one day a good 300 and some kids that wanted to do the art, which was fantastic, but very overwhelming for me, being home with two young toddlers. So that was one little tidbit. The second time I decided not to do that, but because that first round that I went through, I ended up with K through 2 sending me a smaller pile of their work or emailing me their work and uploading it to the Google form that we created, as well as just turning it in just to make sure that I had it. So that was one thing that I learned not to do. But if you are, say, a middle school teacher, I have a really great idea for you if there's just a few that you're working with. Flipgrid was a lifesaver with my third and fourth graders, especially to show they enjoyed showing me their work and talking about it and reflecting. So I'll show you a little quick clip of that.
My favorite skill was probably the contour lines because I love when it goes like dark and dark, and it felt really cool on my hands just going like back, forward, back, forward. I used a pencil. The steeplings really remind me of like rocks or pebbles. So I would try to create like the steeplings out of pebbles.
Nice about Flipgrid is I could see the students show their work, but then you could also hear their expression in their piece and their excitement, and something about being able to talk about your artwork and your process. It's a lot easier with speaking than sometimes with writing it out. So I felt I learned a lot more about my students, and they're actually able to respond to one another's in a polite way too, about things that they saw and liked. And it was so successful that I actually did my summer school. I did an art summer school group. So when you click on one of your grids that you create, and all I did was just edit and copy each one, you will see that I broke them down by teacher code just so it would be easier for students to enter what their classroom is, so I could figure out the grades. So I break it down into those questions, reflecting and just asking what was your favorite new art skill or technique. So here is a little glimpse of one of my students.
Hi, I drew this. I think my favorite one is probably the blue one because my favorite color is blue. And what I learned was that lots of art pieces, well, all art, and that all art pieces have either organic shapes, geometric shapes, or both. I think this activity was really fun. I enjoyed it, and I'm excited to see what the next art e-learning is.
So as you can see, these are just really sweet, and I can edit or send back answers to the students. They can see everything, or even there's a flip code particular to that student, and you can send that or share it back in Google Classroom.
For our e-learning day, we also used a lot of different parent communications. My team set up a Remind 101 account, and we just quickly imported parent emails. So anytime that they had questions, we set our schedule open from the 8:30 to 1:30 is what our time slot was for this past November. And that way, if they needed to reach us in another way besides email, they could reach us that way. We also, as a team, created, which I've attached as an extra thing for you here, is just a little tidbit for them to copy and paste into their teacher directions to families. so that way they knew how parents knew how to communicate with us, but also it's just a simpler thing for our colleagues to be able to copy and paste into what they were already doing. And another way to involve families was I found using the Flipgrid or even these videos, families tended to do them together. And it was really nice to see. What I'm going to show you is just how I have my files a little bit put together. We had 5 e-learning days, our very first day of doing this, and not all of us knew exactly what to put together or what to look for because there really wasn't anything out there. We were just starting something fresh. And when we sat down and talked about what would be the best way to collect data, we figured out that Google Forms would be the best way for us to embed videos or be able to insert that into a Google Classroom or even Seesaw or share a link with teachers, so that way it's just an additional thing that's one thing. Another thought to consider is when you have students that don't have a hotspot or internet at home. And obviously on a snow day or a very cold day, they can't leave their house. So what we would do for those students in particular is if we knew of a snow day possibility coming up, that a cold day was coming, we would prep for those particular students a paper e-learning day to take home with them. So it'd just be in their folder. Should we have one, they have it right there for them. And we used that with a couple of our 3rd and 4th graders that we knew wouldn't have internet access. What we also offered is for them when they get back to school is we would be able to, the teachers or myself would give them time to complete an activity. Even PE would do that too, is during the PE class they would say, here, why don't you finish this, submit it, and move on. There's another option that I found, and I'll share that as an example for you too, is you could have students, if you know a cold day is coming up, just tell them or have them before they leave, particularly a classroom teacher, to open up that form. And so what's nice is they could do offline work. And through Google Drive, you could work offline. And then once they come to internet access, you'll be able to submit it or you'll be able to see it that way. So there's a lot of different options. My hope is that some of these tips and tricks and our trials and errors and things that we worked through and what worked for me in the art room or not will hopefully work for you.
So thank you for watching my e-learning day tips and tricks. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.